Hello, everyone. Welcome to the U.S. Immigration Music Hub. Hello there. If you've been following immigration developments over the past several months, you may already sense that 2026 feels different. Not because of one loud announcement or a single headline, but because of a series of quiet shifts that are gradually changing how immigration actually works in practice. Many people who believe their plans were settled are now discovering that timelines have moved, procedures have changed, and assumptions that once felt safe no longer apply in quite the same way. Families waiting on green cards, workers maintaining visa status, students planning international travel, and even visitors hoping to reunite with loved ones are all encountering a system that feels more cautious, more deliberate, and in many cases slower than before. That is why this update matters, not to alarm or speculate, but to carefully explain what has already changed, what is still evolving, and how these developments may affect immigration cases and travel throughout 2026. One of the most significant changes this year involves immigrant visa processing for people applying from outside the United States, particularly those seeking lawful permanent residence through U.S. embassies and consulates abroad. In early 2026, the U.S. Department of State issued guidance directing consular posts to pause the issuance of immigrant visas for nationals of certain countries while internal review processes were underway. These immigrant visas are the final step in obtaining a green card through consular processing, and without them, applicants just can't enter the United States as permanent residents. What makes this situation especially difficult for families is that applications haven't been canceled, and interviews in many cases are still taking place. Yet, even approved cases may not move forward to visa issuance until further notice for individuals who have already waited years to reach the stage. The pause creates a prolonged period of uncertainty where paperwork continues, but reunification remains out of reach. The stated reason for this pause relates to a reassessment of screening standards tied to eligibility and financial self sufficiency under existing immigration law, an area often referred to as public charge considerations. While the government has emphasized that this is a procedural review rather than a permanent closure, the lack of a clear timeline has left many families unsure how long the delay will last or how it might affect their long-term plans. It is also important to understand that this pause primarily affects immigrant visa processing outside the United States, meaning that individuals already present in the country who are eligible to adjust status through U.S. citizenship and immigration services may, depending on their situation, continue their green card process without interruption. At the same time, employment-based immigration has also experienced notable changes in 2026, particularly with respect to cost scrutiny and processing expectations. Employers sponsoring foreign workers are facing higher financial barriers, while visa applicants are encountering more detailed reviews and, in some cases, longer periods of administrative processing. These developments affect not only large companies, but also smaller employers and professionals whose careers depend on timely visa renewals and approvals. For workers, these changes mean that planning ahead has become more important than ever, especially when considering job changes, international travel, or long-term immigration goals. While premium processing remains available for some categories, it does not eliminate all delays, and outcomes can still vary widely depending on individual circumstances and agency workload. Students and exchange visitors are navigating a similarly cautious environment where visa issuance continues but often involves additional screening and longer wait times. Educational institutions are advising international students to avoid last-minute travel, maintain clear communication with their schools, and keep all documentation readily accessible, recognizing that even small oversights can cause significant disruption. Travel itself has become a more complex consideration in 2026, especially for folks holding visas or with pending immigration applications. Expanded entry restrictions are still in place for certain nationalities, and honestly, enforcement at ports of entry has become more consistent with officers now relying on integrated data systems that make travel histories and visa compliance a lot easier to verify. While biometric screening has been around for years, the real difference now is how entry and exit data are connected across agencies, which really reduces ambiguity and makes it even more important to be accurate when explaining your travel patterns or visa usage. For travelers, this doesn't mean you'll face constant trouble at the border, but it definitely means that preparation, documentation, and clarity matter more than they once did. Another thing shaping the immigration landscape in 2026 is the ongoing movement of visa numbers, especially as reflected in the monthly visa bulletin. Priority dates keep advancing and pausing depending on the category, country of chargeability, and overall demand, which creates uneven progress that can be pretty tough to predict. Some employment based categories have seen modest forward movement, while certain family based categories are still heavily backlogged. Interestingly, some analysts say that unused visa numbers from paused or delayed categories might eventually be reallocated, which could potentially benefit other applicants in the years ahead. Though this possibility offers little immediate relief to families currently waiting, immigration timelines often unfold over multiple years, and what appears stagnant now may shift later, even if the present moment feels uncertain. For individuals with pending cases, the emotional strain of waiting cannot be understated. Repeatedly checking case status, hearing conflicting stories online, and watching processing times change can lead to frustration and anxiety, especially when major life decisions depend on outcomes that feel beyond one's control. It is important to remember that delays are often systemic rather than personal, reflecting workload and policy transitions rather than judgment on a particular case. Green card interviews remain a source of concern for many applicants. Yet, it is worth emphasizing that these interviews are generally designed to verify information rather than catch applicants off guard. Officers typically focus on consistency, documentation, and honesty. And when details are unclear, calm explanations are far more effective than speculation or guesswork. Travel during a pending immigration process requires particular care, as rules vary widely depending on status and category. Some applicants may travel with advanced parole. Others should avoid leaving the country altogether, and misunderstanding these distinctions can create serious complications. Confirming travel eligibility before departure is always safer than assuming flexibility at the border. For visitors and temporary visa holders, secondary inspection has become more common, not necessarily because of any wrongdoing, but because officers are verifying information within these, increasingly interconnected systems. While the experience can definitely feel intimidating, most inspections are routine, and patience and clarity typically lead to resolution. Digital systems now play a central role in immigration processing, with online filing, electronic notices, and document uploads becoming the norm. While these tools can really streamline certain steps, they also require careful attention to detail, since errors can be a lot harder to correct once submissions are finalized. Taking time to review instructions and keep organized records has never been more important. Beyond procedures and policies, it is essential to acknowledge the human dimension of immigration, which often gets lost in technical discussions. Immigration affects real lives, shaping decisions about careers, education, family unity, and personal stability. Delays and uncertainty are not abstract inconveniences. They are lived experiences that influence everyday choices and emotional well-being. If you are feeling tired, uncertain, or discouraged, it is important to recognize that these reactions are natural, especially in a system that moves slowly and changes frequently. Many people navigating immigration in 2026 are facing similar challenges and most ultimately move forward, even if the path takes longer than expected. As the year continues, immigration policy is likely to remain cautious with enforcement and screening playing a prominent role. While legal pathways continue to exist within established frameworks, preparation, accurate information, and patience remain the strongest tools for navigating this environment. Understanding what is changing, staying informed through reliable sources, and giving yourself room to respond thoughtfully rather than react emotionally can make the process more manageable. While uncertainty cannot always be eliminated, clarity can reduce its impact. As more updates emerge throughout 2026, the landscape will continue to evolve, and staying informed will help you adjust plans as needed. Immigration journeys are rarely straightforward, but knowledge and preparation make them navigable even during periods of transition. Thank you for taking the time to stay informed and engaged, and for trusting this space to help clarify what is happening during an important year for U.S. Immigration Hub.